Hello, welcome everyone. We are so excited to be sharing with you our very first Poolside Proficiency webinar of this summer's professional learning season from Wayside Professional Learning. We are so glad that you are here and excited to kick off with us. All right. My name is Julie Pacheco Toy, and I'm an instructional strategist at Wayside Publishing. I am a former Spanish teacher and instructional coach, and I'm located in Oregon. Maritza, remind me where you're located right now.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay, and I know that we have people from all over the country registered. We are super excited to bring to you, dive into the new AP course project today, the very first kickoff session of our summer PD series, Poolside Proficiency for 2026, brought to you by the professional learning team at Wayside Publishing. A quick bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you want to, you can change your screen view. So you can choose, we can't choose for you, but if you want a different view, you can click on active cameras, which is on the bar, in the center of the bar at the top, and make your selection there. Also, if you have questions, please submit them in the Q&A, not the chat, the Q&A. We will be fielding questions. Some will be answered in the moment, and some will be held until the Q&A session at the end. So please don't worry if it seems like we are ignoring your question. We are definitely not. All of your questions will matter to us. And finally, there is a document that Maritza would like to share with you located in materials, which you can see. It looks like a little document up in the upper right-hand corner with a little paper clip. It says materials. If you click on that, you should find a document. All right, all that business taken care of. Now I would like to do my very most important job for today, which is to introduce our very special guest speaker for today's webinar on the new AP World Language exams, with a special focus on the course project. Maritza Sloan is a College Board AP consultant for Spanish language and culture and Spanish literature and culture. She's also a past president of AATSP, a former Texas Foreign Language Teacher of the Year, and a co-author of Wayside Publishing's EntreCulturas 1. In addition to all that, she's also an active practicing teacher still. Amazing. Welcome, Maritza, and I am going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Julie, and good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome today. Thank you, Julie, for the introduction. I think you forgot to say that I am from Costa Rica, the land of pura vida, right? Thank you, Wayside, for inviting me to do this presentation. So with a little bit about me and my teaching situation. I teach in St. Louis, Missouri, in Ladue Horton Watkins High School, located in St. Louis. And it's not a big high school. We have about 1,400 students, 9 to 12. And we teach French, German, Latin, and Spanish. And we serve about 900 students in the World Language Department, with about 700 in Spanish. I teach the AP classes, AP Spanish Language and AP Spanish Literature. I also teach the kind of like pre-AP. We don't call it pre-AP, but I do because I treat it like that. And so I've been teaching AP Spanish Language and Culture for, 25, 27 years. So today I'm very excited to talk to you about the new AP course project for all the languages, FIX, how they call it, College Board, French, Italian, German, and Spanish. And usually I do my presentations in Spanish, but today, because we are expecting people from other disciplines, I'm going to be talking to you about the project in English. So thank you. So you can go to the next slide, Judy. I will appreciate it. My overview of this presentation, we're going to be talking about key updates of the AP exam for the 26-27 school year. And I feel like, ever since February, a lot of people have been talking about the exam. There had been a lot of presentations. So probably I have some teachers in this workshop that are have listened to these updates. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the updates, but I feel like when you run a marathon or when you run a 5K or 10K, you practice and practice and practice before you accomplish the goal. So today you're going to be practicing hearing those changes again. But my main focus will be understanding the course project, and what preparations we need to have before January comes, when they receive the package with the questions and things for this new task that they have to do, and questions and discussion at the end. My hope is that at the end of this presentation, when you see the project, see it more as a process and not an event. We have been doing, world language teachers do projects all the time. So ever since the students are in level 1 all the way to the upper level. So this is not new. It's just a little bit different with a different approach. Another takeaway is looking at the sources and how to use those sources, and how to use them to inquire, to think, to respond. And ever since 2014, the students have been 2012, 2013, 14, the students have been using sources to work with the AP language, Spanish and French especially. And the strong responses that connect products, practices, and perspective to explain cultural meaning are the ones that we're looking for right now. Having the students have that relationship between the 3 Ps. Next. In March, everybody received, not everybody, but the College Board released the CED. And I just want to say that the CED should be your best friends for the next few months, and familiarize yourself. If you are attending an APSI this summer, I really encourage you to take a big dive into the CED and exploring what it has to offer. So if you go to page 4, Julie, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I just want to show you a few things in here. So you have the table of contents, and in that table of contents, you have the scoring guidelines. And that would be something that I really advise you to familiarize yourself with the scoring guidelines, because those are new. And if you press into the appendix, it will take you straight to the project manual. And this is a diamond that we have. The College Board is giving us this document that you can explore, and it gives you a day-by-day plan for the 15 days that this project is supposed to last. So familiarizing yourself with this document will be a must, I would say. Also, if you go, I don't want you, when you look at the project manual and you look at those lesson plans for each day, the 15 days that the project has recommended to be taking place, there are tips on the side. So going to those tips and see what has been suggested, because those tips are really, they go hand in hand with what the students have to do. So I don't want you to not pay attention to those. Also, the do's and don'ts, what are the things that we had to do as teachers, and what are the things that we cannot do? How are we supposed to guide the students? So I had been familiarizing myself with this document, as I did with the other one, and I really, like an orange, I tried to squeeze everything that I can from here. So thank you, Julie. That was it, what I wanted to mention about the CD. So again, so the CD should be a very important book that you will have this summer, and beyond. So major changes for the for the 26-27. The first one is the exam is digital, and the students are going to be using the application called Blue Book. And to put your mind at ease, the students are very, very familiarized with the platform Blue Book. We are not. So this will be our first time. So my suggestion, because I've been doing this a lot, I've been talking to the technology person in our school, asking him to teach me how to work with Blue Book. But again, this last week when the students took the the AP exam the week before, even though I had been talking to them all year long and reminding them that this exam is going to be pen and pencil, the week before the exam, some of them came with panics in their faces, like, Senora, I don't see Spanish in the computer. And I said, well, because this exam is not in Blue Book platform. So again, just to put your mind at ease, the students are familiarized with this. And the only thing that you are going to need is a headset with microphones. So and a good microphone so that they can record those the speaking presentations that they have to do. Because everything will be on the computer. So I think that is a very, very good change, and it will make things a lot easier. And like I said, the students are familiarized with this. The second change, big change that we call, is the course project. And this project has two components, two speaking components, the 3-minute oral presentation and the question and answer, with 4 questions that they have to respond after they do the presentation. And these 4 questions will come right away, right after the presentation of the project. They will, a voice in the computer is going to ask them these 4 questions, where they have 40 seconds to respond, and they will listen to the questions twice. So that's the speaking component, and I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. Right now, I'm just going, doing a quick overview of those changes in case that somebody that is present tonight are not very familiarized with those changes. Another major change is the free response. The free response section now is going to be at the beginning of the exam. And when I heard this in February, I was like, what? I was a little bit concerned, but then I started thinking, no, that is a great thing. The students have been working on this project, so now they're very, they're so knowledgeable about what they're going to be talking, and ready to talk about this. So getting that project out of the way, talking about this, is going to be a good thing. Taking that information out of their shoulders, I think, is going to be good. And then they will talk about the project response to the questions and write the essay, because the free response section now has 3 components, not 4 like we have right now. So, or what we used to have, because this exam is not going to repeat. So the free response comes first. The free response section has 3 components, which 2 of the 3 components are this oral presentation, the questions and answers, and the essay. And they are very, we are, and the students will be very familiarized with the essay, because the essay did not change. So it's an argumentative essay. The students they have a prompt, they have to defend this prompt, and they had to use the 3 sources to as evidence of their side they're taking. And the point value, another change is the point value of each of the free responses. Before, each one of the responses were 2.5%. Now, each one of those have a different point value that we will see in a little bit. So that's a change. And the last major change that I want to talk in this section is the scoring guidelines. So the scoring guidelines are shifting from holistic to analytical approach, which is a good thing because the analytical approach is very, I mean, they will see exactly what they need to do in order to get the 2 points or 3 points that they need. Again, in this presentation today, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time with the scoring guidelines, but I will, later on, I will mention them and I will show you what they are evaluating. So I just talked about the major change. So let me talk about what I call the smaller changes. The exam is shifting from 6 thematic, 6 themes to 6 thematic units. And and that's something that we were doing. We had 6 teams and 6 units with different names. Now the unit is the team. Also is the skills are reorganized. So we went from 8 skill categories to 3 broader skills categories. So the with a major focus on the modes of communication, the interpersonal, interpersonal, presentational, and the cultural component, the cultural skills. The multiple choice, the listening section now precedes the reading section. And when we were when College Board was talking about this, and last year, I was very, very nervous because I remember years in the past where the student had to listen and then went to the reading comprehension. I realized that that was very difficult for my students. So I was a little bit concerned, but then I started thinking, no, the students are going to spend the first part of the exam is the free response. So they already have been speaking, they have been listening, they have been writing. So they have been in this exam for about an hour and 25 minutes. So when the multiple choice comes and the listening part is the first part, is going to be okay. So I'm pretty sure, and we will practice the same way when we are practicing these skills in the classroom next year. Another small change is that small but big multiple choice questions are reduced from 65 to 55. And for my students are students that have been learning Spanish in the classroom. So from middle school or a little program that we have in the elementary school. So most of them, I would say about 92% of my students, Spanish, they have been learning the language in our district. And then this year, for the first time, I have the largest group of native heritage speakers. So, and I have 9 altogether. So I'm very, very excited about that. That's something that I've been fighting for in my school. So, and what I'm saying with that is that multiple choice, the reading comprehension, has always been one of the hardest tasks for my students. So we're always looking for the strategies and different activities to help them be more at ease with the reading comprehension. So going from 65 to 55 is a very good thing for me. And each of the multiple choice questions now have a set of 5 questions. Next slide, please, Julie.
Sorry about that, I was muted. Maritza, I have a question here that I think you're going to be addressing here soon, but I thought I would ask it just in case. One of the viewers is asking, what are the 3 broader skill areas again? That'll be coming up, correct?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Perfect, perfect, okay.
So right before we talk about the skills, let's talk quickly about the course units that I was just talking to you about. So if you look at this graphic that I have, here, the first unit is families and communities, and then we go to the second one. So it goes from families and community to my left, which is language and culture, and that is uh, a new topic, a new theme this year: language and culture. So private and public identity is no longer part of this thematic units. And then arts and creativity is kind of replacing beauty and aesthetic. And then science and technology is the same. Contemporary life is the same. In global context, it's a little bit different. It used to be global challenges, so now it's global context. So if you look at the orange bubbles, those are the ones with the new either change in their name of the unit or of the theme, I'm sorry, or um, they're different. So language and culture, arts and creativity, global context. So if you can still use some of the resources and things that you have for the other three units, and for arts and creativity, global context. So next slide, please. Just to remind you that they will interconnect. This is another little change over here. The recommended instructional context. We used to have 6 recommended contexts in each one of the themes. Now you see that there's a wide variety of recommended contexts. Like some of them might have 4, and I put a little number in there so that you can see. So families and community have 4 recommended contexts. Language and culture, the new one, has 3 recommended contexts. It's going to be talking about customs and celebrations, which is something that we talk about in any of the language classes. Linguistics, Spanish in the world, French in the world, German in the world. So where is the language spoken? What kind of accents do they have? And all this information goes into this language and culture unit. And then arts and creativity, 6 recommended contexts, and on and on. So you can see here that some of them have more recommended contexts. And remember, you don't have to touch every single one of these through the year, because it might be overwhelming, but see where they interconnect, and maybe you can skip a recommended context and that is not taught in any of the other units. But this is something that I always have in mind, because with the old curriculum, I used to try to do a circle of the units, the first semester, and then do another round second semester, 2 or 3, using one recommended context. So I cannot use that anymore, but I can see here, how am I going to do that? And that's something that I'm going to be playing with this summer, how I'm going to reorganize those units. Next slide, please. So here are the skill categories. So now, like I said, we went from 8 to 3, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I mean, you can look at skill category as the interpreted communication, with students have to recognize explicit meaning, interpret meaning, synthesize, and infer. And if you look at the CED, actually you have a whole list of skills that you can long list of skills that you can look and familiarize yourself. I mean, so the third skill category here is the cultural understanding, which is the whole class, AP Spanish language and culture, AP Spanish French and culture. So how the cultural understanding in skill category 3, cultural understanding, and that's a very important concept to know, because the student had to really put that into practice when they're doing their project, that cultural understanding. So my recommendation is to go into the CED and see the long list of skills under each one of those 3 broad skills. Thank you, Julie. Next one. I said that the multiple choice is the listening part now is changing. But even though it's changing, is one thing that I like is this organization that we have now. So for the listening part, you will see here that the students, we have 5 different tasks. the audio and chart, audio report, instructional guidance, interview, presentation. So they will have one set for each one of those tasks with 5 questions. And in the end, they will have 25 questions that they need to answer for the listening part. Now, for the reading comprehension, that list is shortened. We don't have the letter that they had to read before. So now they have article and chart, literary text, and promotional material. I don't know about you, but my students, the promotional material is something very easy. Article and chart, they now have a good handle on that, but they always struggle with the literary text. Is the one that is always more difficult for them. So that's something that I had to work and do more things with them. Judy, you have another question?
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt you though there. I have 2 questions here that I think might be appropriate to answer at this point. One is there no more presentational category? Has it been replaced with cultural understanding?
Well, if you go back 3 slides where we had the skills, next. So the presentational is connected, is a skill category to interpersonal and presentational communication. Speak and write, interpersonal and presentation. This is when they do the project presentation, where they had to do first the oral presentation and then the question and answer, interpersonal. And then the presentational writing is the essay. So, and then the cultural understanding is the skill category 3, which, I mean, before it used to be separated, but now is more unified. I like it. Mm-hmm.
More integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And the other question is the proficiency level still at advanced, low to mid?
For the, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When we, when we were working on the old exam, I used to tell people, especially in my workshops, that the email reply and the simulated conversation is an intermediate mid task. The essay and the cultural presentation, that was a advanced task, intermediate, high, advanced task. I don't know how this is going to play right now. I mean, the essay is still an intermediate, high, advanced task, and I'm pretty sure that the oral presentation, the presentation of the project, is going to be a intermediate high task. And I show you. I'm gonna briefly. I'm gonna show you the scoring guidelines so we can look at those. All I wanted to say with this one is the reading part. I was telling you, literary text is where my students had the most, the hardest time. And I always, I do a lot of research with them, my own little research. And when I give them this, and I do graphs and trying to help and see how can I help my students better. If you can look at this, then we have six sets for the reading interpretation. And the 6 sets are going to be a combination of those tasks that you have in there, the article and chart, literary text, promotional material. So that is going to be a variation. Maybe they have two articles and 2 promotional materials, 1 literary text, and 1 article and chart. And the following year will be another combination. But the most important thing that I really like is that now they're going to have only 5 questions for each one of these tasks. Before, they used to have like 7, 10, 11 questions. And now they know. And that's one thing that we can do whenever we give them an article. We can ask 5 questions because the task would be the same. They had to infer, they have a vocabulary, they question. So the questions will be the same. It's just less questions per exam. So they have 55 questions instead of 65. So the intention now is that the exam will be an hour shorter. And I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I know for sure that it's going to be between half an hour and 45 minutes less time than what their students are taking right now. That situation changes from school to school where they do recordings, but now with everything coming from Blue Book, that situation is going to be solved. So next slide, please. So the free response, and like I mentioned before, this is now the first part of the exam. Here, the free response, like I said before, is going to be the project presentation, the question and answers with 4 questions, and those right there are going to be the speaking part of the free response. Notice though that the weight for these 2 parts is 35%. 35% out of the 100% that the value of the exam. And then the other 15% is the argumentative essay. Remember, we used to have 12.5 for each one of the 4 that we used to have. Now is 50% divided between the project and the 15% and the argumentative essay that they would do at the beginning. And with that, I just very quickly talk to you about those changes, the bigger change and the smaller one. That's how I divide them. So now let's talk about the project. And that's what I'm supposed to be talking about. And my time is getting short, so I'm going to go quite fast. I had the great opportunity, and I would say it's a great, I was very lucky because I did the pilot. I did the pilot, the first pilot, they had 2 pilots. I did the first one, and I was very nervous. And the pilot that we did at that time was different than what we have right now. What happens with that pilot and the following pilot, they came out with this project now. So we did have to do a presentation, and the student had to do a slide deck. That's gone. And then they had the question and answer. And it was the same thing. We received a prompt, and we received sources, and the student had to do investigation, and we had a certain amount of time to do that. And we needed to turn in our exam in March. And so what I learned when we did the pilot is it wasn't that bad at all. The students, I don't know what the results, they never told me when they graded, how they did, but I'm going to tell you what I saw in my classroom. I saw students very engaged. They knew the topic quite well after working for 15 days. And they knew how to respond to the questions when we had the follow question and answers. So they were ready. And I saw things that I didn't see with the old exam. Especially in the question and answer, I didn't hear a lot of the when they were speaking, because they listened to a question once and then they had to respond. Now they're listening to the question twice of something that they had been studying, something that they are very familiarized with. So I was very excited about that. I didn't see any of my students quiet. They were all engaged and talking, and so I was excited. So that was my experience when I did the pilot. So let's talk about this. No, I'm going to go back can you please go back? I was just engaged talking about my pilot, but I haven't talked about the course project. So here's the course project. The students will receive the topic, instructions, and sources in January. And they're going to use, College Board is going to use the AP Digital Portfolio for this and their AP classroom accounts. So the students will have 15 days, 45 minutes each to complete this research and study this prompt and work on whatever the assignment is. And the student had to submit a personalized project reference sheet. And this document is very important, PPR. I will strongly recommend that the students submit this personalized project reference handout document. And the proctor or AP coordinator, I don't know who does, who gives this exam in your school, will download this personalized project reference from the digital portfolio the night before of this exam, and the students would receive this on the day of the exam. And then they would use that to prepare for the question that the College Board is going to give them about that project. And then they had 3 minutes to plan and 3 minutes to present. And immediately after they do that, they will have the question and answer, the 4 questions, and that they listen to it twice and 40 seconds to respond. And that's a big change. Julie?
Yes, I have a few questions here that I think are relevant to this slide and this part of your presentation. One is, does each student get a different topic or theme, or one per class?
The students get the same question all over. They get the same question in January. That every student in AP will be studying the same particular question with the same document.
Great. And a follow-up question to that, do you know if the topics will be the same across languages, French, Spanish, etc.?
That is my understanding. Mhm.
That's
So
my understanding too, but you know much more about this than I do.
that is my understanding.
And then are the questions generated by AI, and does AI grade? I assume this person is asking about the Q&A questions.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna have readers going to the AP reading and grading this. Um, Again, I mean, I participated in the pilot. I was not part of the people that listened to the projects and the worked on the scoring guidelines. But no, uh, I'm pretty sure that in your classroom, you want to use some AI to help you create some questions. I mean, but I don't think that that's what College Board would do. Okay, good. Those
And one final one. Let's see, where did that go? Oh, are students allowed to choose the country that they research?
And I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Great,
But,
perfect.
but yeah, they are.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
So I think I'm done with this slide. So we go to the next one. So here I have this graph because when the students get the topic in January and the sources, they have to, this project is divided in 4 phases. Phase 1 is that explore and understand. Phase 2, investigate and apply, create and evaluate, and the last one, reflect and grow, which is the Q&A. And so all together, these phases are going to help the students to be able to do the answering questions about their project at the end, which is the final task in this project. They do the presentation, 3-minute presentation, and then the Q&A. So this is not going to happen. I mean, they're not going to be able to answer questions if they don't explore and understand, investigate, create, and reflect and grow. So that's you're going to be very familiarize yourself with those 4 phases. Essential question. I have this here because the essential questions there has always been very important to me in my classes. I start every unit with the essential questions and talking about what they know. What can they tell me about this question that I have here? And usually the first day, there's not much that they can say. But when we start reading and exploring sources and about that theme or whatever we're studying, that essential question is going to evolve, and it's going to be every day it's going to be better and better and better. So I always, that essential question have been a very important part of my class. And now with culture, skill category 3 is going to be very important. So support comparison between target cultures and students' own culture. When we are discussing those questions, those are questions that are going to be always asking the student. These questions are going to promote meaningful connections across discipline. And I tried to do those connections when we had those essential questions in front of us. So I'm going to go over the 4 phases, and then I'm going to talk to you about my project that I did with my students. This is not from the College Board or anything like that, but I needed to do it this year just to help myself and use the students to um, do this better next year. So the phase 1 is explore and understand. And the students here have 5 days to complete this phase. So the goal of this phase is that the students develop an understanding of the question that the College Board is going to give them in January. So they're going to start investigating these sources that the College Board is providing them. They're going to start exploring out of these sources, and at the end of this phase, after they look at the 6 or 8 sources that the College Board is going to provide, plus the ones that they are going to search and research, while they're looking at this topic, and then they're going to write an initial reflection. And when they get the questions, they're going to when they get the topic, they're going to get some questions, 4 questions that the College Board is going to give you. So when they do the write the initial reflection, it's going to be based on the topic, the sources, and those 4 initial questions that the College Board is going to provide. And that is phase 1. The initial reflection is not going to be graded by College Board, but I strongly encourage you to grade that. I did that with the first pilot, and I did it this spring when I did my own, and let me say that again, my own little project, pilot that I created. Um, Phase 2, investigate and apply. Here they have 4 dates, and that's when they're going to get really into their topic, and they're going to create a research plan with how they're going to do this investigation. They're going to identify more sources on their own. And here's when they are going to select a region or community, the Spanish-speaking world. So for the person that asked this question, is in phase 2 where they're going to select that community or the country. And also, while they're doing this research and identifying more sources, they had to be making that connection between uh, cultural products, practices, and perspective try to see that relationship between those 3 Ps. So by then they have 9 days, the 5 days for the phase 1 and now 4 days, and 45 minutes is what the College Board is recommending for this. I teach 90-minute periods, and when I did the pilot and when I did my own little practice this spring, that's what I used, 15 days, 45 minutes each day. Okay, next slide. Please, thank you. This is phase 3, create and evaluate. Here, by this time, 3 days, we have 5 days, 4 days, 3 days. Now, the students by phase 3 had the oral presentation ready. They had to organize ideas, they had to develop the presentation, and the most important thing, they had to practice this presentation. And they're going to practice that with their compañeros, with their peers. They had to practice that with themselves and practice with you, the teacher. So, and we are going to give them feedback. Feedback recommendations. We cannot go and find sources for them or anything like that because this is the project. So when we do this feedback, hopefully you will have some documents that College Board is going to provide. I think it's July, that's what they have been saying. And there will be some graphics of how to help them with the initial writing form, writing document, and how to do recommendations to the students. So a lot of this material is coming your way. So well, those are things. Also, you look at the CD, you start creating your own little documents. I had done that this spring, and I expect to do more preparation this summer. Uh, when they are in this phase 3 is when they do the PPR, the personalized project reference. They had to turn this to um, the digital portfolio by April 30th. Uh, Before, if they can, but April 30th is the last day that they can complete this personalized document that they can have with them the day of the exam. And I'm going to go faster now because I noticed that I only have 40 minutes. And I have here a my own personalized project reference. College Board is going to give you something, but based on what they say that they're going to have, so it look something like this. So the students, we have this document where they have to write the project title, uh, sentence starter for the introduction prompt, main ideas, um, and a conclusion. That's how their personalized project reference is going to look like. And it's very important to remember they can only write 10 words in each one of the text boxes. um, the intention of this is not a script. They cannot write what they do, like for the cultural comparison. They still have 4 minutes, and what they do in the 4 minutes, they don't write words. They write whatever they're going to say, and they always read that and then run out of time, and they circle back to what they say, and that cultural comparison is always so script. So this personalized project reference is to help them write notes. And I think is here's where we play a role, teaching them how to utilize this and do this first semester, start giving them article and start doing some little take notes and note taking and using this document, for practicing uh, in the spring, what they will see. Um, an instructional implication here, students should practice presenting with limited reference support. And I do a lot of pechacuchas in my classes, and students do a lot of presentation, especially my upper level students. And I don't allow them to have words in there, so they can have images and they can talk about something they can remember, and has worked really, really well for me. So next one. And this is the last phase four, reflect and grow. And for this, the student had 3 days. And here is where they communicate and respond to those 4 questions. So anticipate possible questions that people will ask about this topic is something that they can start, creating. What can they ask me about? Whatever. When I did the pilot was study abroad, the students were going to do, they're going to go on a study abroad, so they needed to investigate universities, and it was fun for them to do that because I have a lot of juniors and seniors, and they are already doing this in classes. Demonstrate cultural understanding, because one of the questions that they will have is a cultural question. And practice presentation, again, with peers, with themselves, and with the teacher. And language is a very important part over here. So use a range of linguistic resources when they are answering this question, the fluency that they're going to use when they respond. So those are the 4 phases of the project. And now we're going to go very quickly over the scoring guidelines. So I said they're shifting from holistic to analytical scoring guideline. So there will be assessing 5 different points: the task execution, cultural understanding, organization, language control, delivery. So we here have the what and the how. The how is the 4, 5, the language control, how natural and clearly the presentation is. And So I just went to the scoring guidelines and got the most important thing that I wanted for each one of this so that you can see it. But each one of those points have a point value. So task execution from 0 to 2 points, and cultural understanding 0 to 2 points. But when we get to language, 0 to 3 points, and delivery. Altogether, this is 11 points that they can score on this. And that's a little switch from having that strong performance, good performance, fair performance, fair and weak. And so we knew that a strong performance was a 5. So here we don't know yet what is a 5. I know the students would calculate and they call, oh, a 10 is maybe a 5, 10, 11 is a 5, 9 and 8 is going to be a 4. Let them do that. But College Board is going to tell us soon. By end of June, beginning of July, we will have a project that they're going to release for us to see. The next one. So the previous scoring guideline was for the oral presentation. This is for the question and answer. And again, different than the oral presentation here, we have 4 points: the task execution, the cultural understanding, language control, and fluency. Again, the how, language control and fluency is at the bottom over here with 5 points, 3 for the language control and fluency, 2 for fluency. But that cultural understanding, you saw that in the oral presentation, and now you see it again here in the project question and answer. Every APSI, if you are attending one, and I hope you are, that we're going to go over those more in details, and hopefully we will see the project that the College Board is going to send us. So next one. So I'm going to talk to you about a project that I did, and this is the one that Julie shared with you, with the little document with the little clip over there. It's not perfect, and by far, you can take a look at it and put it in the trash. It doesn't work for you, but that was for me. Used to I have a very good group of students this year, so I knew I can afford to take some days to do this project. So I gave them a simulated situation, una experiencia significativa en una comunidad. So they were going to have this significant experience in a community in a Spanish-speaking world, because I teach Spanish, the next one. And I wanted them to focus on perspective. So this is what they were supposed to do. That was the project. And in the bottom, I have the students can explore these experiences. So I give them a little bit of freedom, and they would not have this in the original project that they had to do for College Board in January. But so your experience, so it can be like you're going to work in a Spanish-speaking country, you're going to do volunteer work, or you're going to have a community immersion. And then we discussed those 3 essential questions to the point where later on, when I gave them when they got the sources that I found for them, we were connecting them. We were looking for the 3 Ps in each one of them. And the next slide. I'm just going to go very fast because I only have 5 minutes. So the next slide is where I had the phase 1. So explore and understand. So we were exploring the sources. I put some of the sources here. You look at the big document, I have more sources in there. Some of the sources I know I can replace for better ones, but I was trying to do this. And those are the 4 questions that I gave them, the reflection questions. And then they did the reflexión inicial, the first initial written reflection. And they have, like I put over here, they needed to use 3 of the sources that I provided and explain how they cómo influye en su perspectiva inicial. So what were the initial perspective that they gathered from those sources in relationship to the question? And then and where were they going to take that investigation? What else they wanted to investigate that was not provided in those sources that I gave them? And I think I gave them about 8 or 9 sources. Next, please. So my phase two is the investigate and apply. So here we were organizing the presentation, we were analyzing those sources, plus finding more sources, and then I gave in some factors, like I have here, normas legales from that, normas culturales, and some little things that they needed to do. Because that's another thing. College Board is going to give you factors, and that's another thing that I'm going to start working on when I get there in August and September. Distinction. What is a factor? Okay, because that was the student had a hard time pinpointing that what was factor. Is factor an idea? So that's something that we need to work on. And then the connection with the three Ps. So that was our phase two. And then the next one, please. That's when they put the presentation together and they did practice, and they turned in a little page to me, like I was the digital portfolio and the day that we did the project. It was fantastic. The students were able to talk about that trip to a Spanish-speaking country, and because what we did is we went to a Spanish-speaking country and they work, and they did different things. Some did volunteer work, and some work in medicine, some work in teaching, and so when they did the presentation, the 3 minutes, I again they were very engaged, like when we did the pilot, and then they did the question and answer, and also, I mean, they were pretty good. Most of them, very few were disconnected with the cultural part, but most of them were very, very on task of what I was asking. And then I gave them a form and I asked them, how they felt about this project. And let me tell you, I have 50 students doing this, and they all said the same thing. 3 minutes was not enough to talk about this investigation. And that to me make me feel very, very at peace and happy. Um, and of course, they're not going to have more than 3 minutes, but I mean, that's one thing that I'm going to be massaging next year. How are we going to, uh, I was surprised. I knew that I had to do a 3 minute presentation, but we didn't do I don't know what I want to say, but I mean, it's like it took them by surprise that they didn't have more time to talk about the project. They wanted to talk more, and that's one thing that they made. They comment on the form, and the 4 questions that I ask. If you go to the next slide. Here are the 4 questions that I asked the students. They answer with no problem and very good answers based on their investigations that they did. And wow, I have, I think, like 3 more slides, and I didn't have time to go over them. But I mean, I did this project in twice, one official with the College Board and one on my own, just to have that feel, and it worked quite well. So I'm excited.
Maritza, can you translate and read aloud those 4 questions that you asked? Several people are asking about them.
Mhm.
So I think that
Well,
would be
Julie,
helpful. Uh-huh.
I send you the English version and the Spanish version. Maybe we can put the English version for share the English version. So because it's exactly the same as
Yeah.
the one, but the questions read: Can you explain why did you choose this country or region or community, and how that election influenced your preparation? That was the first question. What cultural difference uh, could affect your experience, and how would you respond to them? And again, those are the questions that I wrote. I mean, I don't know if what they see in May and May next year will be something similar, but that's my thinking of how these questions are going to be about. Number 3 is, what information in your investigation influenced the most in the decisions that you make? Give me an example. And in how would this experience would be different if you had the same experience in the United States? And those were my questions, and that was my project. And I just want to say that I was very happy to grade those because I learned a lot from the investigations that the students did. So
Wonderful. And as you mentioned earlier, and another one of our participants has mentioned, those questions are in English at the end of the document that Maritza shared as well.
no,
And
no. I have two documents, and so I don't know if you put both of them together. If you did, they would be. But the same document that I have in Spanish, I have it in English. So
great. And we'll make sure that all of those materials are also shared in the recap email that you will be receiving in the next day or two. Yes, you will be able to get a certificate for PD, which I will be sharing the link with you both here in a moment, as well as in the recap email, and you will get a recording of the webinar. We really appreciate your feedback. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment to provide your feedback on this session, we have 3 more events coming up, 1 live webinar and 2 podcasts this summer, all to help you prepare yourself and your students for the new AP exam. We have another link here for you for Apunta al Futuro, which is Wayside's brand new textbook written especially for this new AP exam. If you would like a sampler of that, you can use this QR code and link. Thank you so much, Maritza. I don't know if you can see all of them, but we're getting so many Q&A thank yous in here. And I also want to extend my gratitude to you for taking the time to share your expertise tonight. I know it has made a lot of difference for a lot of people.
well, I hope so. And we are just an email away. You ever have a question, let us know. We're here to help you.
Yes, and we are too. Thank you so much. Look for that email. Goodbye, everyone.